I am Blaine Carter, Oracle's developer advocate for open source. There's my contact information if you need to get a hold of me for any questions, comments, or suggestions. In this series, we're going to take a look at using the CX Oracle open source Python utility to perform some basic CRUD operations against an Oracle database. CRUD, of course, being create, read, update, and delete. For those who prefer a written tutorial, this series and all of the examples can be found on my blog at learncodeshare.net. Before you get going, there are some prerequisite steps that can be found in the introduction and setup video. In this section, we'll cover reading data from the database. We'll perform a couple simple queries, discuss named and positional bind variables, and we'll talk a little bit about SQL injection attacks. Let's run a simple query that gets the ID, name, age, and notes from the CX people table. This will return all the records in the table in no particular order. In this chunk of code, we get a cursor object from our connection, which we'll use for our database operations. We prepare a SQL select statement in a string variable. We execute the prepared statement. We fetch the results from the cursor, and we print those results. Running this will return the following data. Remember, there is no defined sort order, so while all the records will be there, yours may be in a different order. For some extra fun, we can modify the query to order by the person's age, like so. And now when we run it, the records are sorted by age. If we want to change the query to just return the data for Kim, we could just add a where clause for name equals Kim. However, if we want to be able to accept user input to allow them to choose the record that they want to return, we could accept the value from the user. We'll just define it here for simplicity's sake. Then we could concatenate the value into the statement string like so. Do not do this ever in any kind of statement. This leaves you open to a security vulnerability known as a SQL Injection attack. It's best illustrated by this XKCD comic. This vulnerability can be exploited by sending in a string formatted to trick the database into running a different command than what you had intended. While I won't be going into detail on SQL injection attacks, I can show you a simple way to help prevent them. Using bind variables with a prepared statement is a much safer way to pass data into a dynamic query. The way this works is, when you prepare your statement, you define where the bind value will be used by adding a colon-named variable in the statement like so. The values are passed into the second argument like this. The values can be passed in as a dictionary or a sequence. In this case, we're using a sequence. This is an example of positional bind variables. Here's the same statement, but with the values in the statement reversed. With positional bind variables, the names do not matter. Each bind variable will be assigned the value with the same sequence position. The results in either case will be the same. When you use a dictionary for the second argument, you are using named bind variables. With named bind variables, the names matter but not the position. Notice in the second example that name and age have switched positions, but the result will not change. Okay, let's run through an example. First, we get a cursor object from our connection. We assign Kim to person name, prepare a SQL statement using a bind variable. Using the cursor, execute the query using the prepared statement, fetch the results from the cursor into a variable, then print the results. It should look like this. And that's a quick overview on using Python and CX Oracle to read data from the database. All the example code can be found on my blog at learncodeshare.net. If you find this useful, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.